more than a couple of kids talked about how they feel like they're very tightly controlled by their parents, or they feel that they don't have any freedom, or they feel like their parents don't listen to them, and they feel that they're not heard. And then there's, on the flip side, there are parents saying, my kid doesn't talk to me, I don't know what's going on in his or her life, and how do I get my children to open up? So before there can be any kind of success in any relationship, it's really important that there be trust, and that there be vulnerability, and there be open communication. And as parents, it's going to be crucial that we learn how to set ourselves up for success so that there can be trust and vulnerability and open communication. And one of the things that I know I found very helpful in our family, and some of my friends have been implementing for a number of years, and I've seen success in their family as well, is setting up a weekly family meeting where there's a set time in the week where the parents get together with the kids, and they're not allowed any distractions. People aren't bringing their phones and their laptops to their meeting. They're not allowing the house phone to interrupt them or other, social activities or friends. It's a dedicated time that the kids have on their calendar, and that they know that from this time to this time on this day, I have to meet with my parents and my siblings, and I can't opt out of it. And different families had different ways of conducting these family meetings. I know one of my friends, their family members took turns leading the meeting, and then in other families it was parent directed. But every family should figure out for themselves what's going to work best for them. But the point is, over time, to create an environment where kids know that they're going to have an opportunity to talk about what's going on in their lives, and parents are going to have an opportunity to talk about any concerns they have or positive feedback that they want to give. It's going to take time to build that trust and vulnerability. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's worth the investment. If you do it week after week, month after month, year after year, you'll be surprised at what people are willing to share over time. I know of a father who met with his daughter for brunch since she was like 5 years old. Every Friday they would go out for brunch. And when she was younger, they didn't have anything super exciting to discuss. Maybe it was even boring for the dad. But now that the daughter is older and she's college age, she's talking to him about a lot of real life issues and getting his feedback on things that are important to her. So when Dr. Asa just mentioned about how vulnerability and trust there are also elements of a friendship, that just reminded me of a really fascinating article I just read recently about what it is that really makes a friendship. It's also a TED Talk, and it was really interesting. These experts broke it down, and they said that a friendship is like a pyramid, a triangle, and there's 3 sides to it, and you need all 3 sides in order to have a friendship. And when I saw that pyramid, I reflected and realized why some of my friendships have really thrived, mashallah, and why some friendships have floundered despite my best efforts. And the same 3 sides can be brought to your relationship with your children as well. So the 3 sides to the friendship, the bottom, they said the base of the relationship has to be positivity. So it has to be a positive interaction where somebody feels that they're seen, they feel that they're heard, they feel that it's a positive interaction, they feel that they're not constantly being criticized, it's not constant downer, not constant doom and gloom, depression, making each other feel better. So if you look at your friendships that are probably the most successful, you realize that there's a lot of positivity involved in your interactions. And then the other 2 sides of the triangle were, so positivity is the base, the other side is vulnerability, so that you have to be willing to share of yourself and talk about things you've been through and that you've grown from, and then also be willing to hear another person share their struggles. And then the 3rd side was consistency, so that you are actually seeing each other on a regular basis or making an effort to get together, communicate, talk on the phone, whatever it is. So that's where the family meeting can come into play, because especially as our kids are becoming teenagers and going into the college age, what I've been surprised by the most is really how busy everybody's schedules are, especially here in the West. Everyone's running in different directions. We're always in the car. And we have to actually schedule time to get together and make sure that we're checking in with one another. And in our family meetings, originally when we started having them, it was easy to start out those family meetings with just checklists of things that need to be taken care of and chores that need to be done, but that can take away from a little bit of the positivity, right? So it's also going to be important to validate one another in those meetings. One point that, speaking about influence on our kids, that really resonated with me was something that Sheikh Alauddin Bakri shared a few years ago. He said that our children, at all times, they're being influenced in 3 different areas, at all times. It's either the school, or it's the streets, and by streets he meant their social environment, so who their friends are, the school, the streets, and the home. And he said that parents need to be winning in 2 out of 3 of those areas. So 2 out of 3, streets, school, home, 2 of those, the parents have to be the primary influence on their children. And a book that I would like to recommend that, inshallah, because it's very easy for us to say, oh, you need to have open conversations, you have to get your kids to trust you. The question is how, right? How do we get there? There's a wonderful book called Why Parents Need, Hold On to Your Kids, Why Parents Need to Matter More Than Peers. Hold on to your kids. Why Parents Need to Matter More Than Peers. And it's written by 2 psychiatrists. One of them, his last name is Mate, spelled like M-A-T-E, like mate. And I believe the other last name is Neufeld, N-E-U-F-E-L-D. That book changed our parenting philosophy. And many people have told me that that book was a very created a big paradigm shift for them in how they raise their kids. So, and he starts out with talking about being with his teenagers. So inshallah, there will be some very practical tips in that book and how to establish that trust with your children. And one of the things that we told our kids is that at all times, in every relationship, in every friendship, one person is influencing the other. So either you're influencing your friend or your friend is influencing you. It's never neutral. And so to help our children to really reflect on what role are they playing in their different relationships and what role are their friends playing on them and what direction are they taking them into. So to get them to reflect for themselves as well rather than us always talking at them. One of my friends told me about something that she does with her daughter that has worked really well for them. So I think it's worth sharing with others. She said that she keeps a diary by her bed, and her daughter has access to that diary anytime she wants. And when her daughter has something that she wants to talk to her mother about, but she doesn't feel comfortable actually discussing it face to face, she'll write it out in that diary to her mother, whatever issue she's facing. And the mom will read that diary entry from her daughter, and then she'll respond in that diary to her daughter. And so she said that that diary has gone back and forth between her and her daughter for a while, and they don't actually ever speak in person about whatever the topic is that might be bothering her daughter. Sometimes kids need a little bit of distance to actually be able to come close to their parents, to communicate with them. And anonymity can sometimes help. Some parents say that they have certain communications with their kids just over email because the kids aren't comfortable speaking face to face about certain issues. I know some of my most valuable conversations have happened in the car when my child is sitting next to me and we don't have to look at each other and we can just have these really deep conversations, but it doesn't get uncomfortable where we're like in each other's faces, you know, having to look at each other's facial expressions. So just a little tip I wanted to share. What can I do in a situation where the teenager does not want to talk? He just wants to be left alone. That's very, very normal. I think every parent here of a teenager, especially those of us who have sons, know that experience of young men especially wanting to pull away, wanting privacy, not wanting to be nagged, not wanting to be asked 100 questions about what are you thinking, what's going on. So it's more important to create a positive environment and make sure that they feel safe and that they feel comfortable and that they actually want to just hang around with you in comfortable silence. And sometimes something may come out after a long time of just sitting around quietly, but not feeling like they have to produce or they have to present something to you when you guys are sitting together. It's important that, again, like that triangle we talked about of friendship, the positivity being the base, it should be a positive experience, and that sometimes can mean just sitting in comfortable silence. You can't force anyone to talk. You have to make sure that they feel safe. And the way they feel safe is by knowing that you're, having a high opinion of them, the way Dr. S had mentioned, not constantly grilling them, trying to get stuff out of them, not checking up on them, and letting them know that you accept them the way they are and that you're here if they ever do want to talk. It won't last forever. At some point, kids do share. It may not be today or tomorrow, but it does happen.